Hello everybody, welcome back to Commonwealth Flipper. I want to start outside. I haven't started outside in a long time, and it is a gorgeous day today. Just amazing. The boys are over here playing ball, and should be a good day. But I want to talk about a question that I got the other day. Are there any good buyers left on eBay, or is it all scammers? And I'm like, really? Come on. We know it's not that bad, but I want to talk about a good buyer, maybe, I think, today that I had with an issue that I mislisted that they had understanding for. Also want to talk a little bit about scammers today as well, and something really odd happened with a site that I said I'd no longer sell on, and something happened just in time to make me rethink it. Although it's a little suspicious, so I probably won't rethink it. And we got some cool sales. Let's go take a look. All right, y'all, today has been one heck of a day. Matter of fact, it's literally an hour and a half since I was out there filming as I came in here. Because when I got in here and turned this on like I normally do, and my computer and everything, there's no internet. There's nothing whatsoever. I'm like, what is going on? So I called the company. They're like, yeah, I've got some funky internet around here, y'all. And so I've got a little tiny funky looking satellite dish on my roof that beams all the way over to the Blue Ridge Mountain to pick up a tower that beams it somewhere else. It's a disaster. Any rate, they're like, yeah, we lost the lease on that tower, and they got to resituate it for another tower. And I'm like, how about do that before the internet goes out? Any rate, I've got no internet. I've got a weak signal coming from my secondary internet upstairs. So it has been a frustrating day. And I think it's going to be a slow process, but we'll be able to ship in here today. Check these out. Some brass flies. They're like ashtrays of some sort. You just kind of lift them up, and they go like that. I kind of want to show them to you. Hold on. All right, here you go. So check them out. Look at those. How cool are those? Little ashtray. And you set it down like that. These sold part of the Death Pile Picker buyout. Sometimes there's some gems in there. 80 bucks plus shipping. What are you doing in here? I don't need any more bad luck today. Actually, believe it or not, this ties in a bit to what I was my secondary topic today, which is I stopped selling on a site and all of a sudden I got a sale. If that makes any sense. If you remember me talking about Bonanza, I was going to shut Bonanza down and everything. And right before, the day before I was going to shut it down, I got a sale. Hadn't had a sale in like almost 60 days. Well, not quite. Maybe 50 days. And I'm like, And then I looked at the sale. Remember, I don't know if you watched that video about not selling on Bonanza or not, but if you did, this makes sense to you. And I got the sale, but it said it would not process because my credit card needed updated, which it doesn't need updated. But it got me thinking for a second when I saw that, maybe that's the problem with the internet. And I'm like, no, I went and like, all that's good. And so they cut it off for that reason. So phone calls and everything. But I have a Bonanza sale that I can't ship, that they say they have canceled the transaction, which is fine because I was going to cancel it anyways. It was a $40 Harley jacket, which is kind of a cool sale. But one sale in almost 2 months is going to be worth the extra fees over there for adding items that don't sell. I've oftentimes heard a lot of people say, you know, they're about ready to quit eBay, and or at least not pay for their store fee, and then all of a sudden they get a sale. I'm like, okay. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's a conspiracy going on. Check this little starburst out right here. I picked this up in a lot, I think. I cannot even remember, to be honest with you. This little starburst. You know what? I might have got this on Polish and Brush. It's got a RAM on it. How cool is that thing? That sold for $44 and change. Is that right? I gotta get the right number. Nope, $41.90 for that one. Plus shipping. Sold pretty quick, actually. As I walk away, I'm looking back. I'm like, these are awesome. Pretty good sales. $120 plus shipping. And they're not my typical stuff. I would have never... these are cool. If I would have saw these somewhere, I would have picked them up just because they're awesome. But this stuff I would have stayed away from for sure. But there's a lot of money in things I don't know, which means there's a lot of money in things that most of us don't know unless you're some kind of an expert out there. You may remember the basement sale where we picked up all this dragon and wizard stuff and it was super cheap, and I found some amazing stuff, and there's something else just sold for it. You won't see it on this video. And these, I put a ton of them over on Dibdit immediately because they're unbranded. You know, these mythical legends. I'm like, these are going to be tough sellers. But I tried a few over there, and I sold a couple, and this one just sat and sat and sat. And I thought about taking it off and putting it on Dibdit, getting, you know, $8, $10 for it. Instead, we put it on discount, and it sold for $12.97 plus shipping. Not a great sale, but, you know, it's all pure profit. Speaking of not great sales, we have had a bunch of them, but in some ways they still are good sales because they're getting out of here and we are making money. These I bought at the 127. It's coming up on 3 years ago, and I bought so many of them. All kinds of different styles and stuff. There might even be some back there still. And they were multi-quantity listings, and they were 50 cents a piece. And I made a bunch of money on some of them. But this style, this tank top, size medium, green Petra shirt, has been a tough seller. But I think this is the last one. And it sold on heavy discount, $7.70 plus shipping. All right, I guess we'll get to the topic a little bit. I got to keep my eye out for Pepper. I like on beautiful days like this to keep the door open. I just absolutely love it. When I leave the door open, Pepper comes in, and if I don't keep my eye on her, she ends up knocking stuff off and getting on product and stuff, and I don't like that. But I've seen quite a few people lately really complaining about things like, you know, it seems like every day I have a return, or every day somebody's trying to scam me. And I would tell you this, I've been doing this for 25 years. For me, I feel that stuff is about the same as it's ever been, and I'm not going to say it's going down, but I really haven't experienced much of that. You know, the switcheroo and all the stuff people talk about, it's happened a few times over the years. And I got a message today, I'm like, oh, here's one of these again, I get it. And it reminded me to really bear down when I'm doing my listings, because I do them quickly, to check the item specifics. And I don't fill everything out, but sometimes you're copying listings and stuff's already populated and you got to take stuff out and leave stuff in the description. I sold a Donvier ice cream maker the other day. You might remember it. Beautiful condition. It sold on clearance for like $13.97. It was super cheap. I try not to buy those anymore. And they sent me a message as soon as they got it, like immediately. Like it showed up that day and the message came. There's no recipes in there, they said. I'm like, I know, there's no recipes. I didn't say there's any. I didn't say this to them. I'm talking to myself. I know there's no recipes. And I looked at all the pictures. There's no recipes or whatever. And then I went to item specifics, and everything was listed, and it also said a recipe book. I'm like, this person bought it knowing it wasn't there. I see Turner. What do you need, bud? He said I could finish. So I got to talk to you quick. And a lot of folks will buy listings that have a mistake, and they know they have a mistake. It's happened to me before. And then they'll ask for that, you know, partial refund. And they sent me that message, and I was like, okay. I was like, you know, feel free to open up a full return. I'll return it if the recipe book is that important to you. But it's not even a book. It's just a little pamphlet thing. I said, or, you know, I'll give you a couple bucks back or something for a partial refund. Thinking that that's what they were trying to do, and I would send them the partial refund, everything would be fine. But they didn't. All right, I didn't want to make Turner wait. And so Turner came in, and so did the cat. Huh? You want some treats, don't you? All right. And so this buyer sent me a message back. Let me pick this item real quick. This is from Carolyn. I think it's our... there was no message on there, but it said repeat buyer, so I think Carolyn is a viewer. Carolyn, thank you. And it was a knife. I don't know why I always forget knives are in the top. It's a Schrade knife. This was part of a massive knife buy. And I picked like 10 knives and put them on eBay. And then I sold every other one on Dibdit. And they sold very quickly for a good deal over there. Some of them were lower end. Some of them we put some nice ones over there. This one's been listed forever. It's a really nice knife, but it has one of the blades missing. Not that you care, but we made hundreds off of that deal. I bought a whole bag of them for $10. And this Schrade knife sold for $27 or $23. Can't read my own writing. I think it's $27. $27.97 plus shipping. And that is another thing I'm not an expert in. Not even close. But I don't have so much pride that I can't ask somebody, and even Dave, I'll ask. ADH Dave knows knives way better than me, and I've learned a little bit. I have known Schrade and you can tell age and stuff for a long time. So I have been doing that one, but I've been getting a little better in that. And I'm glad I have, because I'm sure for a decade I passed up a bunch of stuff that I shouldn't have passed up. A lot of times you'll find knives and they're really high priced and you can't make too much money off of them anyways, but I've been getting better at that. There goes the other cat out there. So they send me a message and they're like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll just look up the recipe thing and I'll find it online. So, you know, this was a thorough person who was going through my listing and found an error from me after the fact, but they didn't think they did. You know, they didn't check the, you know, the pictures. Maybe they did and just thought, oh, I didn't put it in there. But it's really important to check those listings, because there are people out there who will purposely buy from you knowing there's an error in your listing. And I list very quickly, and so there will be errors in my listings. That's why I love viewers who are looking through and they'll see something. Somebody sent me a message the other day. There was 4 vintage like goblets, and they're like, hey, your listing says 5. I'm like, really? Sure enough it did. So, you know, sometimes it really pays off to avoid the scammers by being meticulous in your listing. But it's a give and take, right? If it's taking you an extra minute to do every single listing, then maybe it's not worth all that work. But certainly go over the best you can. Let me know a story out there where somebody wanted a partial refund and you think that they did this. As far as other scams go, I just don't see that many anymore. I really don't. The stuff that really gets me is those returns where, you know, I just didn't like it or whatever. But I don't know if I'd call those people scammers. Those are people that just buy, and they regret things and send them back. Almost forgot we had a Virginia Tech jersey right here as well. Is this the last one? That's correct. No, there's still a few back here. I bought so much Virginia Tech stuff from one person. It's been about 1.5 years. And I bought an entire tub full of it for like 50 bucks. And I brought it home, and I didn't even realize that they were actual game. These were jerseys that the team wore. These things are huge. Team jerseys from Virginia Tech that they wore in practice and stuff. Some had numbers and names on them. I was like, oh my gosh, this turned out to be an amazing buy. I probably sold over $1,000 in jerseys for that 50 bucks and still have those warm-ups and stuff left. This one right here sold for $37. Man, I'm having a bad time remembering. $34.99 plus shipping. I was gone last week, so I haven't been putting a ton of listings up. So a lot of the stuff that's selling is older stuff. And these are from a really old sale, one of my best favorite sales of all time, where I got all that sealed VHS, movie store VHS, that one Willow, if you remember, I sold for $1,700 plus. And this was there too, and I just love it. Teen Wolf, super cool little mask right there. And there was tons of them, and we had them. There was probably 40 of them, I guess. I think we have 22 left. And so we've sold them over time, but I've had to drop the price because I'm like, we got to get these things gone. Although I will say that this is the kind of item that even dropping the price doesn't really help the sell-through rate. I probably should have just kept it where it was because there weren't many of these out there. 1987, I shipped them, you know, let me just take some cardboard and cut it out and ship them in there. Or you could put them in a record box, I suppose. And they're so discounted now that it's almost not worth it, but it's still money, and you get it over and over again. $6.48 plus shipping. So tell me what you think. Tell me what your experience is lately, especially if you've been doing eBay for 10 years or so. Do you feel like you're seeing a higher percentage of your sales have issues with them, whether it's returns or scams or something like that? Is it staying pretty steady, or is it decreasing? And if it's staying pretty steady, about what rate? I would say returns and scammers don't total more than, say, 2.5% of my business. And that's probably high. The last time I checked, returns were under 2% for us, which is where we like to keep it. I want returns to be under 2%. This one was a surprise sale. And look, it says Dave's. I listed it when Dave started his kitchen market. I listed a bunch of stuff over there. Sold 2 or 3 of them really quick. And there's still 2 or 3 that didn't sell and I hadn't listed. Is that cat trying to get in again? And this was one of them, and I saw the sale pop up. I listed them fairly cheap, just as it's a new marketplace, and wanted to help them out a little bit. So Dave's Kitchen Marketplace. This is a Tupperware marinator. Is that what they're called? Marinators. and it sold for $7 plus shipping. I remember right off the get-go, I listed a couple of pickle keepers $1 or $2 under eBay price over there. I paid, you know, a smaller amount of fees, and they sold really quick, but there's still a few items we listed that haven't sold. These shoes right here were a buy over on Dibdit Threads one day. I was in there and they were putting stuff up cheap, and I was just buying stuff up, and I think I paid $8 for these. And of course you got to pay shipping too, but when you buy multiples, and I bought 4, 6, 8 things, something like that, so it mitigates the price of that shipping drastically. So with shipping and everything, I'm probably into these for like 12 max, I think. And they sold for 40 plus shipping. So it's not the best flip I've ever made, but it's definitely over a $20 profit, and they were ready to list. I didn't buy anything that I had to do anything to. I just bought stuff that I could snap a picture and sell. So I'll take a double up really easy on something I bought over on our live selling platform, dibditthreads.com. And I could source in the wintertime too. I was at a sale. I think I've talked about it before because I've sold a few things from it already. And I had tons of stuff sitting around. I think this is where I got this. Yeah, this is where I got this. And it was sitting there with a bunch of other stuff, and this kind of stuff I don't always pick up. But I'm like, that's a pretty small box. I can ship it easy. And I don't even know what it's worth, but I just started asking prices. And she's like, $2, $1, $2, $4. I'm like, whew, I just started picking stuff up. Figured I'd look at it at home and I'd make sure I wouldn't leave anything there. And I'm glad I didn't, because this one sold for $44 plus shipping. So I'm loving this mix of traditional sourcing and sourcing my own marketplaces. I was on there today. Holy moly, y'all. This sounds like I'm pumping my site, which I'm not, but it'll probably work that way too. It's a twofer. And I'm on Commons today, which is a wholesale site and live sale. And I'm like, I was doing work. I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? And I start looking. There were autographed photos on there. And I'm like, holy moly, of, you know, Hollywood actresses and stuff. No COAs or anything on them, but I'm pretty certain they're all legit. And of course, they'd have to have COAs and all that stuff, and you'd have to pay for that. And I was in a bidding war with somebody. I was up to about $500. I didn't win them, unfortunately, but there's probably a good $2,000 in profit. And, you know, things are changing, so I'm changing with them, and I'm doing both. I'm doing the sourcing that I love, and I'm adding to it because I'm trying to increase both my live selling and my eBay selling. And so far, it is working. I bought a whole bunch of these hats, not just Mark Brunel Jaguars hats, but a bunch of these style hats a long time ago, and I've sold through quite a few. Bought them super cheap, like $1.50 a piece. I have 2 left of these, and it sold for $15.37 on discount, so 30% off. So, you know, football season, I guess, might help it a little bit, but I've been doing okay on these. I definitely am in the profit, and I still have probably half a bin full of them back there. And so even at $1.15 to $15 and change on discount, we're making a little bit of money. Some of you who watched the the Picker channel might remember me picking up tons of Squishmallows, and y'all thought I was nuts, and I was like, no, listen, I am kind of nuts. But there was some winners in there, and we made our money back on like four of the Squishmallow, and I bought like 80. And we sold tons off online live selling. They're harder to sell online now on live selling. On Dibdit, they're harder. People aren't buying them like they used to be, even for $2, $3 sometimes. And so we listed them on eBay. And, you know, because you could get, you know, $3, $4 if you're paying 50 cents, you know, you sell off 50 of them, you just made some money. But this one got listed over here, even though it wasn't an amazing one. And it did sell $12.95 plus shipping. Oh, look who, no, you snuck in again. You're getting ridiculous. Stay right there. This is the stuff you're not supposed to sell, but since it had tags, you know, you pick it up when you see it for $1, right? But you know what? Even with tags, this didn't go for very much. Matter of fact, I couldn't sell it at all. Had to go on clearance for 30% off, and it sold for $14 plus shipping. It's just too plain Jane, even with the tag. So there you go. If you can get 75 bucks, and I can't even get a $20 bill for it, so. But, you know, at $1, who cares? I'll take it. I did have a return right before I left last week. And so I went in just a minute ago and looked at my numbers, and I'm actually over 2% in returns after that one came in. So 2.01%. So like to keep it under 2, but it, you know, 2.01, I'll take it. Tell me if you're willing to what your return rate is down below. And again, tell me what you think your scammer rate is. If I had to put a percentage on my scammer rate, whew, I think I've had one this year. It was a DVD VCR combo. You know, because a lot of times those bigger items, they'll say, hey, this doesn't work or something like that, trying to get that partial refund. And if you don't give it to them, sometimes they'll send it back, item not as described. And then we got it back, and I tested it fully, and it did work completely. And other than that one, you know, of course, we had the person trying to get a refund. That was 390 days old on it, but, you know, that didn't work. So I don't know if I call them a scam or not. They're just maybe misguided. So, haven't had too many. Let me know any new ones out there that you've seen. This is kind of cool. Sometimes this stuff's easy to pass up, but you can see age and stuff. This is, I can't even do it with one hand, but it's a tripod that I can't get to work. Now I'm making it go down too much, but you get the point. It's telescoping. It gets to double this size. You pull it out. And a lot of people use these for decor. Vintage camera decor and stuff, and sometimes they just use it because they like the old stuff. This is made in Germany, high quality one, and I waited around a little bit for the sale, but it was too cool to pass up, and it sold for 19 bucks, I think, plus shipping. So I'm looking at my sales, and it is just the strangest little mix here, and I really do think sales are down, but it's because I had 2 days straight where I listed nothing, and that rarely happens. And my wife didn't list anything because she was here taking care of everything around here while I was gone. Didn't leave her too much time to do it. And I didn't, you know, I just should have taken a little time and listed a few things that I had in drafts, and I didn't do it. So sales really dropped. But the sales that came through were things, you know, there's a few things here that are recent. 1, 2, 3. The rest are super, super old listings. And because of that, sometimes those super old listings that sell are on 30% off, and they're not going for that much. So we've had a lot of low dollar sales, although these guys back here, where'd they go? The flies sold for 80, so that's good. And we had a $45 sale, and, you know, we had another $45 sale and a $40 sale. But super cheap listings. But, you know, a lot of people tell me, stop buying that, stop buying whatever. But I counted up at the end of the day, and yeah, if I could find $50 and above items all day long, I would definitely do it. And I've tried to increase that over time, and I've got better at it. But I still think there's quite a bit of value in listing those $15 items. Now, there's a few in here that are, you know, that one's 6, 7. I mean, I sold something for 4 something the other day. I think that's on the next video. Sold it yesterday. So I want to avoid those things, but when you enjoy them, if you total those little things up at the end of the day and you just made an extra 20 bucks, $25 profit, you know, you take that and extrapolate it over the course of a month, you're making some real money. I'm like, I almost pay my mortgage. I got a cheap mortgage. But I'm like, I almost pay my mortgage every month with $15 sales and below. Like these next ones back here. The problem with those sales is oftentimes it takes you the same amount of time that it does to list a, you know, a $50 item. So there's definitely different models, and there's some of you out there that tell me, you know, you'd never sell anything less than 25 or 30 or whatever, or 100, depends on what you're sourcing, and good for you. Go out there and get those good items. If you can get enough to make as much as you need, go for it. I'm going to stop messing with this. It's my OCD's messing me up. I'm just going to set it down there like this. I like to buy kids' shoes in good shape, ready to picture for $1. And then sell them for 15, 20 bucks. These sold for 30, sold on clearance as well, I think. $13.27 plus shipping, but it's a, you know, you pick it up. If you don't have to clean them, you list them, easy to find comps, easy to sell them. You know, I think it's worth it because this is a 5-minute listing and a 2-minute shipping job. And I'm going to make $9 profit on that one right there. And it took me 7 minutes. I calculate that out, and it's like $60, $70, $80 an hour. It's worth it. And then there's those ones you see me sell often, like what I'm going to pull out of the drawer right here, that are even cheaper than that. And you're only making a couple bucks per sale, but you got 70 of them, and it's one listing, and they're super easy to ship. So I like that too. I know it's not for everybody, but I love the multi-quantity listing like this one here. I finally got one of these big jars. There's no decal on it. I think I might put my own decal on it. And those frogs right there, you know, I'm not going to make a ton of money on those Budweiser frog bottle topper opener things. But over time, that's going to make me a few $100s. And it takes up a little bit of space, and it keeps my store active. And I have tons of that kind of stuff, like these right here. They don't, you know, these go for under $8, but look at how many there were. I mean, we had this stuff stuffed to the gills. I mean, how many times you see me pull this stuff out of a drawer? I mean, we had hundreds and hundreds of them. So, you know, you make a little bit of supplemental money. So you're not just sitting around waiting for the $80 sale to happen. You're making money, and then those things pop up and you make more money. This is a Sting skull cap. All right, y'all, Reagan's not here, so Turner's buddy Chase is stepping in with some Commonwealth comedy. He's reading a joke for us. What do you got?
What goes up but doesn't go down?
What goes up but doesn't go down?
Stairs.
Stairs. Very good. I was gonna make a joke about I was gonna insult your mama talking about how much I owe on the stuff she buys, but that's probably not the right thing to do. All right, what sold? You're doing Reagan's job today.
Kyle bought a number 3 Inman.
Kyle bought a number 3 Inman. Kyle, thank you very much. Do you remember her line?
Don't forget to get your sticker at CommonwealthPicker.com.
Thank you, guys. Y'all, my wife gave me this the other day and said there was a nice note, and I have no idea how long I've had it, but check this out. I was watching your video, noticed the tag was a little flat, tattered, which it was, but I put a new one out now, and so now I have my next flag that y'all sent me. And as far as I know, knowing my wife, this is probably in a corner somewhere and been sitting there for months on end, so... Let's see, what does it say? Store the blended closet is still going strong for 3 years, they say. Vicky and Billy, Mechanicsville, Virginia, sent us that flag, so thank y'all. All right, y'all, it is a super busy day, and we don't have that many things that we have in drafts today, and Jess is here today, which is awesome, because I've got a really, really busy week. My dad mowed the grass today, and I'm super excited about this week, but I got to get some actual work done for a while and get some new listings up. Let me know about scammers out there. Let me know if you're having more bad experiences, or if you're having the same amount, or if you're having less. And thank you as always for dropping by, and I can't wait to see you next.